Yeah, so the government doubled the price of all arts degrees. That's a thing. Hello, welcome to Dangerous Policy. My name is Crispin. A major development happened here in Australia recently where the federal government announced that from next year, all arts degrees are going to double in price, effectively, right? While maintaining cost control, in fact, cost reduction on a bunch of other degrees, engineering, science, computer science, things that are considered technical and scalable. And I've been struggling about this issue, right? Because I don't know exactly where I sit. I want to continue to talk about this I'll talk about my thought process and invite comments from you guys. So, on the one hand, of course, I don't believe that education should be restricted in any way to anybody, right? I actually think that we need to extend more education opportunities to more people wherever possible, particularly since, I myself have had the benefit of this process, whereby my dear passion, international relations, under this plan will be far more expensive. And would the next person like myself or people who are better be deterred from pursuing something that they would in fact be good at and make a positive contribution because of the prohibitive costs associated with this new decision? Great question, I think. I don't know the answer. Second thing is it better, though, for people to consider these scalable occupations when it's now much more affordable and certainly in relative price, given that it will have, on a statistical basis, a much better economic outcome for the individual than perhaps studying, performing arts or something like that. And that is something that is also factually true. There are excellent studies that talk about the long-term income progression of people in various courses, and certainly the courses that are getting cheaper are the ones with the biggest economic return for that individual. So, it is good for people to consider, gene therapy and stuff like that as a course, new forms of mining science and things like that. Things that allow people to be highly versatile across different areas of the economy and brings a professional skill that allows economic growth. That's an important thing for people to consider. And one of the things that people do need to think about when they're making a decision about what course to study is the financial return that they're likely to receive on their education. And that's, I think, an underrated thing. There's something kind of thought of dirty about that in the sense of the modern university, where they go, no, it's not about the economics, and you're not trying to create, factory workers here. We're trying to make people who can think and think laterally and so on. Yes, but that's also a self-indulgent argument. People do need to think more about their economic contribution, given the direction of the global economy. Like, if people are just going to be left destitute with no job, no hope, after finishing a degree and being in enormous debt, I think that it's incumbent upon the society as a whole and the university to inform students about the likelihood of that. Like, we can't just get absorbed in this sort of nostalgia about what being at university means. We also need to look at some degree of the practicality. Is the solution to that to double the cost of every degree that doesn't have economic value? I don't think that is the solution, but I understand that thinking process. The other aspect of this that I find really difficult is the argument that, well, the reason why the government's doing this is because they don't want critical thinkers, that arts degrees and philosophy and history and all of that will teach people to think critically about subjects. Well, I wish that were true. I really do. Actually, I do think that is the purpose of these courses, is to teach people how to think, right? Like, how do you question historical narratives? How do you challenge different philosophical ideas? How do you make distinctions between different political philosophies? Like, these are things that are really important for a citizen to do, okay? Are universities doing that? I'm not sure that that is actually what's happening right now. I think the universities have significantly deteriorated in that highest order responsibility to open minds. I find that universities are much more interested these days in indoctrination rather than mental liberalization. And that is, a terrible burden on our society, that we're churning out these people that are becoming wild activists, not really considering or challenging the ideas that they've been espousing or the damage that may be caused as a result. So I don't, and this isn't even a left-right thing. This is just anyone who teaches a course who isn't doing it for the purpose of pursuit of truth, but to create better people as they themselves perceive it, is doing a great disservice. And universities, I think, have been culpable of that in recent decades. So are arts degrees making the contribution that we envisage that they should do? I think the answer to that, if we're being honest, is no, right? Like that most people who are teaching arts degrees, and I don't want to say all, because there are plenty of excellent academics, and I can think of them right now as I'm speaking, who are absolutely aghast at the direction of campuses, who have the most pride in students who challenge them and disagree with them and go out and denounce them, right? Like they're actually, as long as they do so using rigorous intellectual methods, okay? And that's what we need to pursue. And if that was still happening, I would not have this conflict. I'd be out there protesting this decision, and I don't think this decision would have held up in the first place. Like, people would just be like, no, this is not the right thing to do. We want people who are independent, radical thinkers, not just independent, radical activists. And so for that reason, I can understand why the government is kind of trying to beat up on the universities. Now, having said that, of course, there's an ideological element to this. The universities have long been left-wing kind of groups, and the government itself is a right-wing government. And it happens to have this wonderful opportunity in a COVID emergency where the tertiary education sector has been completely smashed because there are no foreign students, so there is no income in the tertiary education sector. Ergo, they're going to have to make savings anyway. So this is a way that the government is kind of signaling to the universities, well, just get rid of all those arts degrees and then we'll be right, okay? And that's an ideological weapon, right? They're like, the government is trying to destroy what it sees as a left-wing bastion, and that is, something we need to be cynical about. So I am concerned about that, but have universities contributed to this outcome? Have they contributed to perhaps society as a whole not looking at them with the same degree of sympathy? I think that absolutely they have. The other thing is, it's not clear that university is the sole way of developing these skills anymore. Like, once upon a time, if you had the privilege of going to university, you were in a fairly small minority, and it was only through that pathway that you had access to Plato and or the techniques of Beethoven or all of this sort of stuff. Whereas now, we have access to information of all kinds across the world instantaneously, wherever you are, on every device. You can do courses at any level. I mean, Harvard University has said that the next year is all going to be online. Now, they're still charging $50,000 for their online courses, by the way. There's no discount, okay, even though they're shoveling a crappy product. And the reason they're doing that is because you're getting a Harvard degree doesn't mean that you're any smarter than anybody else. It just gives you a nobility ticket that is recognized within the bureaucracy. So there is no, people are buying branding, right? And universities themselves are contributing to their own debasement. So therefore, I can understand the willingness of a government to try on this. I also understand why they think they can get away with it, right? Because if you think about how radical this is a pretty amazingly, incredible thing to do. Of course, I disagree with it, but I'm not as sympathetic as I wish I was.